All right, we are live. Just let me make sure everything's in tow, and then we'll be ready to go. Let's say I got the lighting pristine right now. Got water in case the voice decides to cut out on me. And yeah, let me invite them. I'm give it a little. Gonna give it a little bit of time. I'm gonna give it till 12. So it's 12:58 right now. I'm gonna give it to around 1. So I'll give it a minute. All about Indy racing. What is up? So the surprise probably is out already. Going to be interviewing IndyNXT Driver Nolan Allaer. Can't wait for it. Making sure get a couple more people in. There he is right now. So get him in. Hello.
Oh, you hear me okay?
Yeah, a little bit of echo on my part, but that's my voice. So do I sound pretty good right now?
Yeah, sound great. It's good.
All right. So how you doing right now?
Good. Yeah, just here in Ohio.
Same. I'm over in Lima.
Oh, yeah. Actually, that's awesome.
Yes, I go to the University of Northwestern Ohio. So I saw you go to Miami.
Yes. Yep. Yes, I'm here right now studying mechanical engineering over in Oxford, Ohio.
Okay. So first of all, I want to say thank you for coming in and talking for a little bit. It's actually the first interview I'll have on here, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Well, congrats. I don't know why you chose to do it with me. That was a terrible decision, but
Nah, I like to cover a lot of the feeder system because I figure it doesn't get enough attention as it should. So I try to get a little bit more light on all that. Try to get a lot of people help as I can. Get more noticed out there.
yeah, junior drivers are always looking for more publicity. Anything they can do to be out in the public. It's really important for our careers to be presenting ourselves and as we try and take the next steps.
Yeah, definitely, because there's a lot of different series to cover as well. Because a lot of people just think there's like Indy Next, which formerly is Indy Lights, but there's like several to cover. There's at least 20 if I can name off the top of my head. So,
Yeah, I
so
can.
um, so you looking forward to your first season in Indy Next?
Yeah, of course. It's an absolute dream come true. It's something I never imagined I'd be able to do, and I'm just so unbelievably thrilled to be given this opportunity. I can't wait for St. Pete.
I'd say it's a pretty good team too, HMD. I'd say they have the biggest fleet. Usually, I think last year they had 8 cars. So it's interesting to see how many they'll have this year. Is it 8 as well?
No, we'll have 10 drivers this year. Yeah.
10 drivers. That's incredible.
Yeah. No, their program is spectacular. They're proven winners. They've been successful in all the levels they competed, and they came into the IndyNXT, formerly Indy Lights championship, and they took it by storm. They've done just an incredible job, and if anyone is going to be able to run 10 cars, it's H&D Motorsports. They do a really, really good job.
Yeah, definitely. Last year they had a lot of winners, and especially the couple years ago with Linus winning the Lights Championship, just dominated that entire year. And definitely a lot of high expectations out of that team coming this year. Do you have any expectations personally that you feel like you should have coming into your first season?
There's always expectations anytime you join a new championship. There's expectations that we publicize, and there's my personal expectations and what I want to achieve. You always want to go out there and win. No driver's ever going to say they don't want to go out there and win, and we all hate to lose. It's just a matter of being realistic. I know this is a huge step for me, and I've got a lot to learn, and I don't want this to be a learning year, but it's going to be a learning year, and I want to try and get to the front of the field and start fighting at the tail or the top of our group as soon as possible. Whatever it takes to get to that point, whether that be a few races, kind of acclimating to the series and the car. I know we've had really impeded testing. We've had very
Yeah.
limited testing recently. We had a lot of rain at Sebring and some issues there, and a ton of rain at Laguna, which was entirely unexpected. And I think there's a lot of rookies in this championship, and we're all just looking for more seat time. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how everything shakes up come round one.
Yeah, Laguna is definitely an interesting track. I went there last year for photography. I got to sit up on top of that corkscrew. It's amazing just how differently the weather can change there, because obviously in the morning it can be like the most foggy place you'll ever experience, and then come 3 in the afternoon, it's like you can see 6 miles on the horizon. It just can change right on a dime. So with the short testing you have had, you feel like you've learned a lot so far through it, or?
Yes, yes. Even though we only did the few hours of running that we got out of what was supposed to be ballpark 32 hours of running, if we went and stayed out the whole time, the car is incredible. The team, my engineer Jerome is a great guy. I have a lot to learn from him, and I know everyone's pushing for me to do well. And it's kind of like I said about HMD. If anyone's going to run 10 cars and be successful, it's HMD Motorsports. And for me, being the rookie, or well, there's multiple rookies, but being a rookie in the series and having, I would say, the least amount of experience out of any of these drivers in this championship, it only benefits me. I get to learn from all of these incredible drivers, and it's just such a great opportunity to be a part of this program. And I think it'll get me to the point that I need to be as soon as possible.
Sounds good. Have any more tests coming up, or is it pretty much just countdown to St. Pete in 15 days?
It's countdown to St. Pete. Yep. And we are 14 days away from round one.
Oh, 14 days. That was one day off.
Yep. It is 2 weeks from today.
I say one thing I did like to want to mention is I did some research on you. A lot of drivers come up through the USF, which is formerly the Road to Indy. You had a little bit of a different path. You came up through SCCA. Can you talk kind of about how your process went getting up through the ranks through there?
Yeah, that's a long story, but it's a good one. But I won't give you the full story. I'll give you the abbreviated version. The SCCA is an incredible place to go learn. I missed my karting years. I started karting when I was 4 years old, and I did the Florida Karting Championship Series from 2008 to 2011. But I actually quit karting. I wanted nothing to do with it. I was just not having a good time whatsoever, and I kind of stayed out of the sport up until 2020 when I got my chance to drive a race car once. It was going to be a one-time deal. And the reason I got that opportunity was because my parents noticed how much time I was spending on iRacing. And I can give you a whole other story about how incredible iRacing is and how it's benefited my career. But the SCCA is the perfect place to go and learn. The value you get from learning from all the experienced drivers in the field, the community, the cost effectiveness of the track time. It's the perfect place to go and get into a race car for your first time and spend time learning how you feel in a car, and test to see if you really want to continue in this sport. And thankfully, I've been blessed to have a lot of success in the SCCA. Well, a lot subjective, but I'm thrilled with what we've achieved with LTD Motorsports, Polestar, Team Pelfrey. It's been really great. And then to have the opportunity to go and take that over to England last year and race Formula Ford over there was spectacular as well. It's there's no set path. I know that the USF Pro Championships has laid out a really great path and stepping stones to get to IndyCar, and that's phenomenal. But there is no set path for how you reach the top flight of motorsport.
Oh, definitely. There's not really a set path at all. There's, as I said earlier when we first started, there's multiple different open wheel divisions that you can learn throughout the world, let alone just the United States. Obviously, as you mentioned, there's tons over in Europe, there's tons in Asia, there's tons in the Oceania area. And one thing I find was cool, so you did run over in the United Kingdom last year in the Formula Ford Festival. How was that? And I noticed you did win a couple times. How was all that experience over there?
It was amazing. It was an absolute dream come true. If you'd have told Nolan from 2 years ago, or freshman year Nolan here at Miami, that I'd been given the opportunity to go run in England in Formula Ford and with a team like Ammonite, like that is an absolute dream come true for me. It was such an amazing year. The guys at Ammonite are just the absolute best, just the top class, first class all the way. They just do such a good job. And to run in the Formula Ford Festival was a once in a lifetime experience for I mean, for me, I'm not sure if I'll be able to go do it again, but it was just a dream come true. And to take my first win in England in the first heat race of the Formula Ford Festival was just spectacular, just absolutely spectacular. And the event is done so well. Brands Hatch is one of my favorite circuits in the world. It's a great place to go and race, and it's a great place to go and watch. It's amazing.
Yeah, Brands Hatch definitely has a really historic history over there. Obviously, it hosted formerly IndyCar races a couple decades ago. And obviously, it's hosted F1 races in the past. It's a really historic track over in England, so to win there probably must have been really special.
Yeah, I'd say the difference between Formula Ford at Brands Hatch, I'd say Formula Ford, if you're really on it, you're looking at 50-second lap time. The Indy cars were doing 38s, I think. They were going much, much faster. That's a quick lap. That's a very quick lap.
Well, no matter what you're racing on there, to be in that environment, similar to Indianapolis, whether you're racing on the road course, whether you're racing stock cars, or whether you're in the big show at the 500, being at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the environment, the aurora, has got to be something special. Same thing probably with Brands Hatch, just from the sheer historic nature of that place, and the surrounding scenery around that place is obviously spectacular.
It's like I said, it's amazing. And honestly, it is one of the best places in the world to go watch a race because the track is all indented into the ground where the grandstands on top of the hill, you can see, I'm going to call it 95% of the track. There's one point going into Druids where there's a tree that blocks a corner, but barely. Everything else you can see. So to go watch the Formula Ford Festival, it's spectacular. And then you go and eat in the cafe, and they've got the board there with all the Formula Ford Festival winners, and it's amazing because you'll see these spectacular names, these heroes in the sport. And one of my good friends, Max Esterson, he won it last year, and it's like, holy crap, like he's on the board, like he's there forever. It's just amazing, and the environment there is spectacular. I'm not going to compare it to Indianapolis because it's two very different things. And I've actually been given the opportunity to race at Indianapolis in 2021 for the SCCA runoffs, and that was an incredible event that they put on. And what in any capacity, if you're doing autocross or a track day at Indy, I don't know what they have available, but to turn a tire over the bricks is unbelievable. Just an absolute honor.
Oh yeah, obviously I've never been able to get into an open wheel car, but I ran a lap there in a because in 2015 they had these things where they would run like a quarter midget lap around the entire oval. They had like 150 there, so even if it's something as small as that, still just be in that hollow grounds is just incredible. So, um, is there any race that you're personally looking forward to the most this year?
Detroit.
Detroit.
100%. I live in just outside of Detroit in Grosse Pointe Woods, but I was born in Detroit, and that's my hometown. My other hometown is St. Pete. I actually lived in the St. Pete area for 13 years of my life, but I've gone back and forth. So I'm fortunate enough to have two home races this year. But I'm going to say Detroit, where I'm currently living when I'm not at school, is the one I'm most looking forward to.
Sure thing, because Detroit, obviously, it's a new circuit from last year. A not a lot of room for error there. It's definitely a tight combined track. It's also very unique because it has the double pit road. So definitely a race I'll be looking forward to. Hopefully to make it out there.
It definitely is. It's a very unique circuit, and of course, my two home races are arguably two of the hardest tracks on the calendar. And but it's just going to be amazing. To race down the roads that I've driven on a million times, but to do it at 170 miles an hour is something else. Like these are just the streets that I kind of grew up around. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, and going a little bit back, I know I'm kind of going out of order here, but going back to the SCCA a little bit, I know they run a little bit at Mid-Ohio because Mid-Ohio has a bunch of club events. Obviously, they host the Speed Tour every year. me having gone there a few times to just watch and just learn a lot of the stuff, I can tell you from experience that a lot of those drivers are just really passionate about what they do, and just it's its own environment.
It certainly is. The Honda Indy 200 and the anytime IndyCar comes to Mid Ohio or any racing series comes to Mid Ohio, the community around there is phenomenal. They love to come out and watch the races, and I can attest. I've gotten many comments of people here over at Miami University, like, "Wow, you're going to race in Mid Ohio," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite circuits. Just I love it." Um, and probably one of my favorite corners there, Madness. You come up and over the hill, and it's another great place to go watch. But Mid Ohio has its own unique fan base, and they definitely love racing there.
Let's say a couple of years ago, I got to talk to Nolan Siegel a little bit. I was just talking to him at the track, and he said probably the favorite thing he said about Mid Ohio is coming out of down the long back straightaway and turning in, going up the S's, and just seeing the entire crowd of people sitting on the hill. It's just something completely different from any other track on the schedule, because you can see upwards of 10,000 just sitting across that hill, and it's incredible sights.
Yeah, that's the corner I mentioned going into Madness. You come down the long straight, you brake for turn four, you turn right, and then all up in the stands is just, I've never experienced it, but you can see where they stand. That's usually where, like in the SCCA, my mom, my dad would stand, and you can usually see them pretty clearly because we don't have a lot of fans. But I can imagine on that weekend how packed it's going to be. I don't remember their attendance numbers, but I believe them to be well over 100,000 people.
Let's say I know last year they were saying it was one of the most highest attended races at that track in a long time. So definitely going to be hopefully a little bit up in numbers this year, and especially hopefully for the IndyNXT series, because ever since it became IndyNXT by Firestone, the series has got so much more attention gained into it, and a lot more teams, a lot more drivers have joined into it. Because I can remember just a short few 2 years ago had maybe 12, 11 cars entered in it, and last year I believe there was a couple of races where you had 21 cars entered. So
Yeah.
definitely a lot more competitive.
Certainly, certainly. And I believe all the drivers on the Indy Next Grid this year are just, I mean, they're heroes of mine. It's spectacular to be racing against some of these people. Like I got to meet Miles Rowe for the first time at testing in Sebring. I was like, I can't believe I'm on the same I didn't know I was on the same team at the time. We hadn't signed yet, but I can't believe I'm racing with you. Like I've watched you on TV forever. Kyle Collette, I've watched him in FIA Formula 3. But the Indy Next by Firestone series is absolutely booming since Roger Penske bought it, and I believe anything Roger Penske buys and touches turns to gold. Um, it's going to be a really, really good year this year. It's all signs are going up for every aspect of Indy Next.
Yeah, definitely. Love him or hate him, Roger definitely has the magic touch when it comes to stuff he owns, because I feel like he's just exploded the whole IndyCar scene in the past 4 years, and it's just became a lot better than not what it used to be, because it used to be amazing, obviously. Big IndyCar fan over here, but just the progress he's made over the past 4 or 5 years, it's just incredible, the stuff he's done.
It truly is, and you can see it in the numbers on the grid and all of the exposure numbers from the series. It's everyone is really there's a big momentum going behind Indy Next by Firestone now, and it's looking like it's going to be a really good year. I'm absolutely thrilled to be a part of it.
Okay, so one question I do like to ask a lot of drivers that I meet, whether it be like really high up in the ranks, like high top end IndyCar drivers, or hell, even sprint car drivers, is I like to ask what got them into racing, what was their inspiration that inspired them to be a race car driver. So I figured, what was yours?
I'm sure everyone has their unique story, and that's a great question to ask drivers. You should make a list and compile all the different stories and see comparisons. Um, I'm going to say my parents, my family, and racing's been my family for a long time. My grandfather still races, my uncle races, my dad races, and I kind of grew up around the racetrack. And they have all competed in the SCCA forever. And like I said, the SCCA is an incredible community. And anytime you go to one of those weekends, it's a phenomenal time. Whether you're the driver, or you're the family of the driver, or just out there to watch, they just do such a good job. And like I said, I karted from 2008. Well, I started when I was four. Karted from 2008 to 2011 in the Florida Karting Championship Series. and I was done with the sport. I wanted to play hockey, and I did play hockey for almost my entire life up until I started racing. And then I started iRacing, and I loved it. I just loved iRacing, and getting to have that connection with my dad where I'm doing it on the sim and he's giving me tips from his real car and going back and forth, and then getting the chance to do it in real life. I was hooked. I just absolutely loved it, and now there's nothing else in the world that I'd rather do. It's just an absolute love of mine.
Right. iRacing definitely has become really blown up within the past 6 or 7 years, and especially nowadays. Every driver, every major team, a lot of them require so many hours, like a week, on some of those simulators. Obviously, I believe one of the prizes with IndyNXT by Dallara is, I think, sim time, or it's an entire simulator. I couldn't actually remember exactly what it was, but can you go into a little bit of just how much iRacing can improve just overall driver ability?
I honestly believe iRacing might be an alternative to karting. If you can't afford to get into karting and spend all of this money competing at the high levels of karting to get the publicity to get into a real car, you honestly can't go from huge success in karting into something like this now, or something open wheel. It's a little bit difficult, but to go from iRacing, there's a lot of opportunities in iRacing right now. There's the Skip Barber Formula Racing Series that allowed a couple drivers to go and get chances to drive the Skip Barber F4s in real life, and that's incredible. Success on the sim can get you in a real car, and everything iRacing is doing, because it is blowing up, and it has been for the past 10, 12 years, it's it's looking really, really good for sim racers. And I can attest, and I think anybody can attest, and this is one of my favorite quotes from Max Verstappen, is he honestly believes that he is not the best driver in the world, because there is a driver out there that's better than him. It's just a fact. Somewhere out there, there's somebody that could be better than him, that hasn't gotten the opportunities that anyone else has gotten in this sport. And sim racing is kind of a way to see what everyone can do, and it's because it's a true even playing field, and I could rant or vouch for it all day. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it certainly has became just overall a lot of it. Obviously, a lot of testing has kind of just shrunk down in hours over just because of how accessible iRacing is. It's a really good cost saving measure as well. Instead of having to ship the entire team out to, say, Laguna Seca to run maybe a 12-hour test, you just have your drivers go on iRacing and just have them go on it all day. And, well, they can learn maybe not so as much as being in the car, but they can definitely learn more than just looking at a lot of it. And it's definitely just really good way to learn a lot of things that you can't just get overnight, because you can just simply just go to the sim and learn it too.
Yeah, I mean, no driver will ever say that the sim time's going to beat out real seat time in the car.
Oh, I can bet that. I can bet
It's
that.
not
A
going
lot
to
of
be.
drivers, if they had the choice, they'd be willing to go out and actually drive the car.
But when you can't afford, or there's external circumstances that make it so you can't get the seat time in the cars that you want, or if you've never been to a circuit, I can personally attest, there's almost every track I've done in real life I've done on the sim before, and when I got there for the first time, I knew exactly where I was going. There wasn't a question. I knew the lines. I knew, and just overall, I knew the left and the right, so you just get a feel for where you want to be on track. And it's not going to be real seat time, but it's perfect
Right.
for what it is.
I say, as you said, you've ran most of the tracks you ran in real life. You've ran on iRacing. Of the tracks you have ran in real life, you have a personal favorite one that you like, adore going to the most, and you really just can't wait to be there.
That that's tough. That's a really tough one. I like a lot of tracks. My personal favorite, and I might be biased because I've had some success there, is probably VIR. It's a gorgeous facility. Everything
Oh,
around there is beautiful. The external area to the track is great. There's good places to eat. It's you can stay close to the track, but when you're actually on track, it is just amazing. You're climbing up the S's. You go through turn 10, and in a Formula Continental car, we're going through turn 10 at well over 120, and it's just an amazing track, and it's not that bumpy, so it's a smooth driving experience. It's aggressive. It's got a little bit of everything. VIR is definitely my favorite track.
VIR definitely really good scenery. Obviously, really historic track as well with IMSA, and I do believe some of the USF series do race there. I remember the juniors, the USF juniors are racing there last year. Definitely looks like a good track. Definitely looks like a really racy track. Can be competitive as well. So VIR definitely a really good choice.
Yeah, it's just got that little bit of everything. You got the long straight for some drafting. It's got tight technical corners where confidence is rewarded, or discipline or patience. It's a really good track to go drive at.
I say, obviously you started off in SCCA. Now you're going into your rookie season in IndyNXT. After IndyNXT, what do you say you're personally aiming for in your career?
That's it. That's the question that everyone asks, and that's it's like I said, that's a question. That's a good question to ask any driver. It's important to have your goals laid out, and there's our short-term goals and there's our long-term goals. But you can ask any driver in the Indy next grid, and I'm pretty confident they're going to tell you they want to reach IndyCar. The goal is to get an opportunity to compete with the best, the best. That's all any of us want.
IndyCar definitely getting a lot more harder to get into just because of how competitive the series has become in the past years ever since the new IR18 has been introduced. Obviously, it's been really competitive. A lot of talk about Indy coming up this year, potentially having a decent bump day. So definitely going to be interesting coming up. So one thing you did mention is you are a third generation driver. Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Can you kind of go into a little bit about who in your family? Obviously, you mentioned SCCA. What specifically in SCCA?
Well, I'd say my grandfather's the one who started it out for our family. He did Formula Ford racing in the SCCA, did Formula Continental, and then he ended up racing Formula Atlantics in the SCCA for a very long time with Polestar Motor Group. And it's the SCCA has been in our family for a long time. That enabled my uncle to get the chance to race, and he did some Formula Ford racing and then did a little bit of Formula Continental, and then decided he was just in love with Formula Ford, which is true. It's a great class and a great car to run, and I fully respect anyone that drives Formula Ford because it makes for really good racing. And then on my dad's side of this is all my mom's side of my family. My dad's side of my family, my dad got the chance to race, and he did Formula Continental kind of after that period of time where my uncle tried Formula Continental and then went back to Formula Ford. There was an availability for him to drive a Formula Continental car, and of course you're going to take that opportunity. And he actually did really well, and he's been very successful. He's won 2 SCCA national championships. My uncle's won Formula Ford SCCA national championship, and it's like I said, I grew up around the track, around LTD Motorsports. I grew up cleaning my dad's race car or walking around cleaning other people's race cars. I always loved to go watch racing, and I never imagined that I'd actually be able to do it myself. My dad would actually, around the track, he'd as we were walking when I was around 14, 15, 16, when I'd be at the track with him, he'd be like, "Look, that kid's 14, 15, 16. You could be doing that." But like kind of joking, like, "Oh, if you hadn't quit karting, you could be there doing that." And I was like, "I'd never do that. Like, that's crazy. Like, that could never be me." And
Kind of giving you little friendly jabs, hey, get out there. Hey, get out there.
yeah, like had you not quit karting, you could have been there. But I was like, I really like hockey, and that's all I want to do. Um, and now here we are.
Well, it seems to definitely have paid off. Obviously, you've had a lot of success in SCCA and with the Formula Ford Festival. And you're getting a chance to drive for arguably one of the best teams in the IndyNXT series. So I'd say definitely all the hard work has paid off so far up to this point. And definitely can't wait to see what the year has in store for you guys. Obviously, it's going to be a really competitive season. That's what everybody's thinking. I think it's going to have a couple more cars than last year, so it should be a lot more competitive. And the first race of the year in St. Pete, which is 14 days away. So
weeks away from round one. I'm very excited, and like you said, HMD Motorsports is the best on the grid. I truly believe that they do such a good job, and it's an honor to race for them, and it's an honor to race in this series, and I can't wait for round one.
So, through all the cars you have driven, you have a personal favorite of that you've driven, obviously with through SCCA, even the short time span with IndyNXT tests over the Ford Festival. Is there like one specific car that you had like the most fun driving?
Oh, most fun driving. I mean, I've gotten to drive. I've driven a Formula Ford, I've driven a Formula Continental, and I actually get the chance to test a GB3 car for roughly 3 days, and that was an incredible car to drive. But this Indy Next car is just a masterpiece of machinery. It is incredible to drive. I feel like it'd be a disrespect to the car to say that that's not the most fun to car
Oh yeah.
or fun car to drive. It is amazing. Words can't explain what it feels like to drive one of those cars. It's something else. But Formula Ford is probably, like I said, I haven't done an Indy Next race yet, so Formula Ford is probably some of the best racing you'll get. You go race in England, and the top 10 of the grid are divided by less than 5/10 of a second, and then throughout the entire race, they're all nose to tail going back and forth. Formula Ford racing is incredible, and that's probably most fun series I've raced in so far.
Yeah, Formula Ford definitely has to be a blast to be able to go over there and race just because of all the talent from all over the world goes to the UK to try and just race those. And if you're in that racing, you're no slouch at all. You are really a really talented racer, and you're really coming up through the ranks. And to be over there in the UK must be amazing just to be able to enter those races and let alone win them. So.
Those guys are all incredible, and it's and like I said, Ammonite Motorsports did such a good job last year, and to be able to run with them and to go over and race all these tracks that I'd seen and done on iRacing, it was just amazing. And I believe it's a great place to go over there and to learn so much about what it takes to be a driver competing at a higher level. And the margins in Formula Ford are so much smaller, so the difference between winning and losing is very small.
Well, it is about 1:30. I've been doing this. So, yeah, St. Pete in a couple weeks. Can't wait to see you guys start racing up there. I'll personally be attending quite a few this year, maybe 4 or 5. Definitely Mid-Ohio, definitely Indy. Hoping to get out to Nashville. That is a really cool addition that I like that they did. Obviously, everybody, the street course is its own sight to behold, but the super speedway, if you remember back in the day, those races were just incredible. Really excited to see how that's going to handle out with the IndyNXT Championship now being moved over to Nashville Super Speedway.
Definitely. I won't say I'm not disappointed to be able to race in the streets of Nashville. That was something I was definitely looking forward to, but the super speedway was really cool as well. So no complaints here.
But I say it will be the only thing like that on the schedule. Obviously, in the history of IndyNXT, they used to race on the oval. They used to have the Freedom 100. They used to race on bigger ovals. The Super Speedway is going to be the biggest oval on the schedule, so that must be a little bit intimidating coming from the SCCA and just going on one of the biggest ovals in the country. So,
Well, I've never done an oval, so I'll let you know how it goes. I'm actually really looking forward to being able to drive on an oval. I think it's going to be a really cool experience, and I'm curious to see what it feels like and what it takes to be successful in one of those. Because like I said, that's more similar to a Formula Ford, where the margins become really small, and it's about finding those little bits of speed that sets you apart from being first or being last.
I say it should definitely be a good show. Definitely going to be a fast race. So, something a lot of us fans can't wait for. So, well, St. Pete's in a couple weeks. Thank you for coming on here. It's been a blast. Thank you for coming on here and answering all these. Obviously, first interview I've ever done, so thank you for being a part of it. And yeah, can't wait to see you race at St. Pete in a couple weeks.
Of course, man. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I had a good time. Looking forward to talking to you sometime this season. Let me know when you're in town.
I'd say definitely the first race I think I'll be over there. Definitely going to be coming over for the month of May. Obviously, Lima, Ohio, it's about 2 hour drive, so nothing I can't do. Detroit, hope to make it out there. In Mid-Ohio, obviously home track, definitely going to be there. So
All good choices.
I'll
It's a
let
great.
you know if I'm in town, and then, yeah. So,
Perfect.
all right.
Thank you. Appreciate you having
No
me on.
problem.
Have a
Thank
good
you
one.
for coming on, and have a nice day, bud.
Have a good one. Bye.
All right, everybody. Nolan Allaer. How was that? So I want to thank you guys all for tuning in. First interview I've ever done. Hopefully get to do more of these coming up in the future. And I think that went good. Kind of talked a little bit too much, as I say on my part. Did repeat some things a little bit, but it's definitely a work in progress for me. And I just want to thank you guys all for the opportunity I got to do this. And yeah, thank you all for tuning in. My name is Brandon Rudder with IndyCar Central. Thank you for watching.